Hello friends, welcome to Technical RPA. This video we are going to learn some of the interview questions which is required and most important of the Python. The first question is, how is Python interpreted language will work, or how Python is an interpreted language. So when you mean by interpreted language, it will convert your code into a language which is understandable by your system processor. For example, you are writing some code. You are writing some string concatenation Python code. This is your code. So internally, what it happened when you are writing code, the pyc file will be created. .pyc file will be created in Python function internally. Also, this pyc file, here you can see when you completed your function or Python code, you can download through that pyc into py or ipynb, two formats. The Python major format is py, like javascript.js or vbscript.vbs. The same way in Python script.py is here. Suppose your code file is interview, then your file name is interview.py, or else in Collab or some other tools it will give you ipynb as it's a neutral another format. You can create on it and you can use it inside the Collab, but these py files you can download and you can use and you can convert wherever, whichever tool it may have you are using here. So you are writing code, the pyc file is created. This is the work of interpreter. The interpreter will create .pyc files, then you can downloading into the, or you can making conversion into .py file. So this is the first step of the interpreter. So the Python code you are writing, it's compiled into Python bytecode. So that's what I'm making a statement. Bytecode is .pyc file. Bytecode which creates the file extension with .pyc. So suppose you are writing 10 lines of code, the bytecode will create 5000 or 8000 bytecode. This compilation happen internally. You doesn't know, like other scripting languages, it will compilation will happen internally and almost hidden. Also, the one more thing is, the main thing of interpreter is a platform independent of based on your source code. So in that case, you are getting some bytecode. The bytecode will run in original source code statement, and once the bytecode converted into .pyc file, it created and started the compilation step and executed by appropriate virtual machine. Suppose these which means suppose you are writing code here and it will integrate and it will create a bytecode and it will create a .pyc file in your local and it will execute in your machine only. The same code if you make it in another machines, maybe it may work or may not work, because you are, suppose before you are running this code, you are importing some packages. Maybe this package will be available in your system because it downloads in your system only. So that's what it has to compile in your system. Once it is done, the VM VM scope of the bytecode POC file will be iterate through your bytecode conversion, and your virtual machine will get all the python.pyc inputs and it will convert it into Python script. A simple methods calling as a interpreted or interpreted languages. So the technically the last step we are calling is Python interpreter. So what we are using in Python scripts. So these all the functions happen internally or background. Maybe the bytecode creation, the PYC creation. Once your PYC has created, it will convert into, you will download into PY file. This PY file has a Python script. It is a component. You are getting the final output as a component. That component is called as a interpreter. So what is Puppet in Python? Puppet, PEP stands for Python Enhancement Proposal. So which means it has set up rules that specify how to format Python code for maximum readability. For example, Puppet, the Puppet, how it will works in VS Code. I will show you some basics. For example, here I am going settings. Here you can see if you use CSS, I'm going to VS Code settings. If you use CSS, your compilation will change based on your formats, and if you use JIT, your source code will be updated into the repository, and if you use notebook, you can write the code based on the display order or priority list. If you debug the code, the debugging breakpoint list, how the readable will happen. If you have a task enabled, it will be auto detect some of your providers, and also you can set yes or no based on the dictionary match. So these are all the things covered in Puppet. So how your program has been executed based on the readability mode. So you can set many readability mode. Maybe you can set extensions. So suppose based on the coding standards, you can set an extension or timeline, or how your output has to be behave. You can set many ways. So these all the things will come into Puppet or Python enhancement proposal based on the maximum readability. The third one is how is memory managed in Python. For each and every language, maybe the .NET framework, Visual Studio, or else your VB script, or else your JavaScript. So every script has some memory management, but comparing to other scripts, Python has more managed memory consumption. It's like a Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio. So it used a garbage collector as a private keep space. So all of the Python objects and data structures are located inside the private keep. Usually the developer doesn't have access for this private keep space. The allocation of keep space of Python object is done by Python memory manager. So the main cause of the main part of the memory manager is it allocates some space. For example, if you are writing some code, maybe 60 bytes or maybe 80 bytes, maybe 10 maybe 100 bytes. It will allocate your space into keep memory, and once the allocation has been completed and your code has been execution completed and this memory has been revert back and it has been called through garbage collector to recycle all unused memories once your code has been executed based on the memory and keep space. So here they are using keep memory and memory manager of garbage collect inbuilt garbage collector they are using. Also the objects which were created has been kept in Python private keep space. So usually private keep space is nothing but that it is a keep object converter. Keep object converters. Okay, so what is namespace in Python? So here you can see, so these are all the namespaces. So also you can use from so you can use two ways. One is directly you can import your namespaces. For example, these are some of the built-in namespaces OS, sys, max or JSON, or else you can get, suppose I'm going to get from system, I'm going to import only sys. I have many objects in system, so here I'm importing only the sys. So in that way the namespaces has been allocated in Python. So namespace is simply like the names which we imported and we have to use inside the function. So what is Python path? So Python usually having some environment variables. Here you can see. Here you can see. So you are checking some indentation. Based on the indentation and based on the path, the environment variables has to be created in your local. Not only the environment variable, the modules which you are executing values has to be created in the particular directory. The directory is called as Python path. So what are Python modules? So you can see these are all the modules, some of the basic modules. So Python modules are files containing Python code. This code can either be function classes or variables. The Python module is a .py file containing executable code. Some of the commonly used built-in modules are OS, sys, max. I already showed you. Here you can see. These are already shown basic modules. So what are local variables and global variable? So variables which you created within a function, it's a local variable. Variables which you declared inside a function. Suppose you are creating a function. Suppose you are creating a function. Test So this is local variable. The variable which you created it within function is a local variable. Also here so this is your global variable because I'm declaring outside the function, and entire my class file will work based on this variable name. This variable name I can use within the function, outside the function, and entire class file. So this is the main difference between local and global variable. The any variable declared inside a function is known as local variable. This variable is present in the local space and not in the global space. Also, global variables declared outside a function are in global space or global variable. These variables can be accessed by any function of the program. Here you can see they are mentioning that. Is Python case sensitive? Yes, Python is case sensitive language, and also you have to here you can see, suppose you are mentioning where it will give compilation error. If you mention small, you will not get compilation error. Also, it should be always started with lowercase. So what is type of conversion? So what type of conversions in Python? Type conversion refers to the conversion of one data type into another. Here you can see. So usually in Python language we have different type of data types are available, like integer, float, decimal. So usually when we are using Python functions, the maximum using variables or data types is string, dictionary, list, integer, float. These are the 5 things we are using mostly. List, how we can declare as a list. Here you can see. Suppose you are declaring as a list 1, 2, 3. So this is the way you can declare as a list. How you are declaring as a dictionary. Dictionary you can declare as 1, 2, 3. So list can be declared this way, and dictionary you can declare this way. Also float, integer you can declare as normal. So other types, so you can convert one type to another type, but the maximum what we are using is we can directly take the string. Suppose when you are creating your function, instead of conversion, so this is my function, so I'm creating a new function, for example conversion like function. So I'm having 2 variables. Variable 1 is integer, variable 2 it is dictionary. So I'm directly taking 2 variables. I'm declaring variable 1 is integer and variable 2 is dictionary, so that the conversion is not needed. The mostly using variables are string, dictionary, list, and as well as integer, float. Maybe sometimes we can use tuple function. Is indentation required in Python? Yes, indentation is necessary and the first priority in Python when we specify a block of code. All code within loops, classes, function, etc. is specified within the indented block. It is usually done using 4 space characters. How you can done indentation? Here you can see. This is 4 space. The indentation usually will happen 4 spaces. It usually done using 4 space characters. If your code is not indented necessarily, it will not execute accurately and throw errors. So I explained separate in indentation as a separate video, so you can check that. The indentation is very important thing. Usually how you are indenting your code, suppose you are writing def here, also once you are writing your function variables, thus you are giving colon, and if you give enter, automatically it will give you the where you have to put your another code, where 2 equal to 0. Then again you are giving enter, will give, it will come into directly where you want to put your variable, next variable or code. Instead of that, if you go there, you will get indentation error. Here you can see. So I'm just executing it. Here you can see the error has been occurred. Invalid syntax. It is one thing. Okay, I will change my syntax. Again I am running. Where 2 equal to 0 is invalid syntax. Again I am running. Indentation error, expected indented block. Suppose I'm running here. Equal to 0. Now you will not get the indentation error. Now you will get invalid syntax error. Okay guys, thanks for watching this, and next video we will see some more interview questions.